Welcome to our channel. We hope you enjoy today's video. Enjoy watching.
My husband's first love posted a video on social media where she and he were passing a card with their lips. When the card fell, their lips met in a kiss, and they didn't stop. They passionately kissed for a whole minute. The caption read, "Still the same clumsy pig." I silently liked the post and left a congratulatory comment. The next moment, my husband called, furious, saying, "There's no other woman as dramatic as you. I was just playing with Camila. Why are you acting crazy again?" It was then that I realized 7 years of love meant nothing, and it was time to leave. He caressed my still sore abdomen from a miscarriage, and I thought, "Sorry, little one, you came at the wrong time." I swallowed both the physical and emotional pain. I replayed Melanie Martinez's video, where her rosy cheeks and shining eyes filled the screen. The comments below were flooding in. I was there. I swear Emiliano and Melanie were kissing like they were a couple. Wow, Emiliano has moves, no wonder she looks so dazed. People were saying, "Look at Camila's face. Women outside the house always smell better than the wife at home." The video ended when they finally parted ways after what seemed like an eternity. More comments started piling up, and Melanie selectively responded to some, saying, "Guys, don't start rumors. Emiliano and I are like siblings, good friends." She joked, "Keep saying things like that, and the chubby one will get angry." The chubby one was me when I was younger. I had to take steroids for a medical condition, which made me weigh 55 kilograms. Today, I weigh only 40 kilograms, even thinner than Melanie herself. However, she still clung to that nickname, especially when Emiliano was around. My chest felt like it was being pressed by a rock. This was why Emiliano had turned down a multi-million-dollar deal to be a godfather at a former classmate's wedding. I had assumed it was out of camaraderie, but it turned out his first love, Melanie, was the maid of honor. How foolish I had been. I knew it was time to end this relationship. It was late when Emiliano stumbled home, reeking of alcohol, with bright red lipstick on his immaculate white shirt. He called me several times, but I remained still in bed. Drunk, he buried his head in my chest, begging for affection. "Sorry, it was just a game with Camila. I was the godfather, and she was the maid of honor. I had no choice." The look in his eyes during that kiss, the joy, the pride, was impossible to ignore. When I didn't respond, he rubbed his head against my chest, trying to win me over. "Forgive me." If in the past his puppy act would have instantly melted my anger, now the image of him and Melanie kissing made me feel disgusted. I pushed him away and turned to the other side of the bed. Feeling my rejection, his playful attitude turned to anger. "Anna, apologize." "What more do you want?" he shouted. "Everyone was just playing at the wedding. You're the only one taking it seriously. I've been running all day. Can you stop throwing tantrums?" His voice became harsher. "Why can't you learn from Camila? She's so understanding. What's your problem? We're married. What more do you want from me?" Emiliano and I had been together for 7 years and married for 5. In college, my pursuit of him was practically the main topic on campus. After we married, we moved into the villa that belonged to my parents. I handed over my savings to help him start a business, and my father moved heaven and earth to ensure his success. In 5 years, Emiliano became the famous Mr. Cobos. At our wedding, he had promised in front of everyone, "Anna, I swear to love and care for you forever." I believed him so much that I silently stepped back from the spotlight, giving him full control of the company. However, with his newfound wealth came his high school love, Melanie, whom he hired as his personal assistant. I could have made a scene or cried every time Emiliano did something hurtful, but he would look at me with disdain, scolding me for being irrational and insecure. What he didn't know was that while he was busy kissing Melanie, I had been bleeding while drinking with a client. It wasn't until I was rushed to the hospital that I discovered I was pregnant and having a miscarriage. I had called him several times, but he rejected all my calls. Later, I realized he was too busy with Melanie to even notice my absence. Feeling like nothing mattered anymore, I sighed with an ironic smile, looking at Emiliano's arrogant face. The thunder outside raged, reflecting my emotions. Emiliano, we're getting divorced, I said finally. The house and car are mine, they're premarital assets. We'll divide the company 50-50ths. His eyes widened in disbelief. Anna, you're crazy. You're divorcing me over this? I didn't know you were so petty and narrow-minded. Before I could respond, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was sweet and soft. Emmy, it's raining a lot, and I'm scared. I'm alone. Can you come and keep me company? Emiliano reassured her gently, don't worry, Cammy. I'll be there soon. His voice was softer than I had ever heard him speak to me. After hanging up, he turned to me with a cold, emotionless face. Anna, I know you're upset. I'll give you time to calm down. I watched as the man I once loved deeply transformed into someone I didn't recognize. I grabbed his sleeve, desperation seeping into my voice. Emiliano, don't go. Stay with me, please. His expression darkened further. Can you stop being so irrational? Melanie is afraid of storms. How could I leave her alone? Without saying more, he walked out the door. I curled up in the corner as the thunder shook the house. I used to be afraid of storms when I was a child, and my parents were always busy working during them. I would cling to my stuffed toys, trembling. Emiliano once promised to always be there to hug me during storms, but tonight he chose someone else. Half an hour later, Melanie posted a photo of two hands clasped together, a green Rolex on one wrist, and the cuff of a white shirt framing the hand, undeniably Emiliano's. However, his wedding ring was gone, leaving only a faint mark. The caption read, "Oh my God, my little brave puppy faced the storm to come and keep me company." In that moment, everything became clear. 7 years of love couldn't compete with one sweet phrase from Melanie. My soul felt empty and exhausted. I collapsed onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next morning, as expected, Emiliano was still not home. My stomach growled, so I opened my phone and searched for a restaurant I had always wanted to try. If my heart couldn't be filled, at least my stomach could. When I arrived at the restaurant, I froze. There were Emiliano and Melanie, leaning toward each other like a pair of teenage lovers. Emiliano noticed me first, and his expression twisted with irritation. Anna, are you following me now? His voice was sharp and cutting. How pathetic can you be? I sighed, more tired than sad. It was as if the universe was playing a cruel joke by putting me in this situation. I didn't come here to follow you, I replied calmly. This restaurant was a famous romantic spot that I had mentioned to Emiliano countless times, hoping he would take me there. Each time, he rejected the idea, saying he didn't like that type of food and telling me to go alone if I wanted to. Now, there he was, sitting across from Melanie, enjoying a luxurious couple's menu. Every detail screamed romance, from the paired utensils to the heart-shaped fillets. Melanie leaned toward him with a giggle, and Emiliano's face lit up as he replied, "If you like it, I'll bring you back here again." His words pierced my heart like a knife. A waitress approached them with a wide smile. "Excuse me, couples dining here can take a photo together to win a free ride on our Ferris wheel." Melanie's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Let's do it, Emmy. It would be so romantic to kiss at the top of the Ferris wheel." Emiliano affectionately stroked her head, saying, "Whatever you want, Cammy." They posed for a photo together with the Ferris wheel as their backdrop. Emiliano made sure it was prominently displayed on the most visible wall of the restaurant. Melanie noticed my presence and approached me with a mocking smile. "Sorry, Anna. I didn't mean to upset you. Emmy is just trying to fulfill a little dream of mine. There's nothing between us." From across the room, Emiliano shot me a look of disdain. The warmth he had with Melanie completely vanished when he looked at me. With his arm around her, he added coldly, "Cammy, why waste time explaining to someone like Anna? She doesn't even enjoy romantic things." He turned to Melanie and said, "Let's go. I heard making a wish at the top of the Ferris wheel makes it come true." Melanie smiled radiantly. "Seriously? Then I'll wish for a husband like you." Emiliano laughed indulgently. Silly girl. I'm already here. I watched as they walked away arm in arm, and finally, I understood it was time to let him go. The view in front of me remained intact as I ran out of the restaurant. When I arrived home, I packed my bags. My eyes fell on our wedding photo hanging on the wall. In the picture, Emiliano and I were kissing, overflowing with happiness. Now, that image seemed to mock me. Without thinking twice, I ripped the photo off the wall and threw it in the trash. 7 years with Emiliano had brought moments of joy. I remembered the mornings he woke me up with a kiss, the cups of tea he prepared to soothe my pains, and the way he comforted me in difficult times. I thought he would always be that man, but since Melanie returned to his life, everything had changed. I didn't want to spend another second in that house. The property was mine, after all. I would sort it out after the divorce. Before leaving, I left the divorce papers on the dining table. Finally, everything was clear. The love I gave, the sacrifices I made, were never enough. This time, Emiliano would truly be a goodbye. I never imagined that the moment I tore that photo off the wall would be the beginning of something much bigger in my life. The feeling of throwing that image away was strange, like removing a weight from my shoulders while loading another onto my heart. My chest was racing as I locked the door of the house that was our home until yesterday. It was dark outside, and a fine drizzle fell, but I didn't care. I walked toward my car with my suitcase in hand, feeling the cold of the night pierce my skin. It was symbolic, as if the universe wanted me to feel every detail of that moment. I remembered thinking, so this is it. Now, I was alone. I pulled out my phone and opened the GPS, wanting to go to a new place that would symbolize this new phase of my life. I decided to drive to that restaurant by the sea that I had always dreamed of visiting. Emiliano always said it was cheesy and that I should go alone. Well, now I was going alone, and the irony wasn't lost on me. During the drive, the sound of the rain hitting the glass and the soft music on the radio were the perfect soundtrack for the thoughts resonating in my mind. I relived all the humiliations, all the times I ignored signs that were right in front of me. But deep down, there was something different. For the first time in years, I felt a strange kind of freedom. When I arrived at the restaurant, the salty sea air was the first thing I noticed as I opened the car door. The rain had stopped, but a fresh wind moved the lights hanging on the terrace, giving them a hypnotic sway. There was something magical about that place. I entered with firm steps, as if marking a before and after. The restaurant was lit with warm lights, and the sound of the sea mixed with the murmur of conversations and the soft piano playing in the background. I sat at a table near a window where I could see the waves gently breaking against the rocks. I ordered a white wine and the house special. For the first time in years, I didn't care what anyone thought about my choices. It was my night, and no one was going to ruin it. As I waited, my gaze got lost in the window, in the small drops of water still sliding down the glass. I thought about how I had reached this point and wondered when I allowed Emiliano to become the center of my world, forgetting who I was. The waiter brought the wine, and at the first sip, I felt a comforting warmth spreading through my body. It was as if every detail of that night was designed to remind me of something I had forgotten, that I deserved to be happy, that my life didn't have to revolve around someone who didn't know how to value even a piece of me. I looked toward the beach where a couple was walking hand in hand, laughing. For a moment, I felt a pang of sadness, but at the same time, something in me began to awaken, like a spark that had been extinguished for a long time. The dish arrived, and I must say that I had never tasted anything so delicious. Each bite was a perfect mix of flavors, fresh seafood, aromatic herbs, and a citrus touch that awakened my senses. But what truly mattered wasn't just the food, it was the experience of being there with myself in complete tranquility. I didn't have to pretend or adapt to anyone's expectations. It was me enjoying something as simple as dinner, but for me, it meant everything in that moment. I understood that I didn't need Emiliano's validation or anyone else's. I could give myself what I had always hoped to receive from others. As I finished my wine, the waiter approached with a friendly smile. "Would you like the dessert menu? We have a bitter chocolate cake that's our specialty." Normally, I would have said no, thinking about how Emiliano used to mock anything that seemed indulgent. But that night, I decided yes, I wanted to try it. When the dessert arrived, I savored it as if it were a small personal triumph. Each piece reminded me that I was reclaiming something lost, my right to decide for myself, to enjoy what life offered without fear of judgment from anyone. As I savored the last bite of the cake, I saw something that changed the course of my night. A tall figure with dark hair and an elegant demeanor entered the restaurant, wearing a long coat slightly damp from the rain. His eyes explored the place with a calmness that contrasted with his determined appearance. Without realizing it, our gazes met. It was a brief moment, but I felt an inexplicable connection, as if the universe in its infinite irony was placing that moment right in front of me. He headed toward a nearby table, and as he removed his coat, I couldn't help but notice his smile when he thanked the waiter. There was something magnetic about his presence, something that made me feel curious, but I didn't know why. It didn't take more than 10 minutes when the same waiter who had been attending me returned, this time with a note in his hand. "Miss, the gentleman from that table sent this," he said, pointing toward the man in the coat. My heart skipped a small beat as I opened the note. In a firm handwriting, it read, "It's hard not to notice someone who seems so at peace with herself. I hope I'm not intruding. Alejandro." I felt my cheeks warm up, but it wasn't embarrassment, it was a mix of surprise and a type of emotion I hadn't felt in a long time. I raised my eyes, and he was watching me with a serene but respectful smile, as if waiting for my reaction. Without rushing to respond, I couldn't help but return a small smile. There was something in his gesture that didn't feel invasive but genuine. I raised my wine glass in a friendly gesture, and to my surprise, Alejandro didn't hesitate to stand up and walk toward my table. Each step of his seemed firm and secure but not arrogant. "I hope I'm not interrupting your night," he said with a warm voice that seemed to envelop the atmosphere. I softly denied it, somewhat intrigued. "Actually, this night is different," I replied with a sincerity that even surprised me. Alejandro smiled as if he understood more than my words said. He introduced himself formally and asked for permission to join me. I let him sit down, and our conversation flowed as if we had known each other for a lifetime. He talked about his passion for architecture and how he had come to the restaurant seeking a moment of tranquility after a long project. I, in turn, told him a bit about myself, though I omitted certain details about Emiliano. It wasn't necessary to talk about wounds that still hurt. Alejandro, however, seemed to have a special ability to listen, as if each word of mine had a weight that he valued. When I told him about my decision to come to the restaurant alone, his gaze softened. "That's the kind of courage not everyone has," he said, and those words resonated in me more than I imagined. The night advanced, and each minute with Alejandro made me feel lighter, as if the weight I had carried for years was beginning to disappear. Amidst laughter and anecdotes, I realized I hadn't checked my phone all night. It was a small detail but important. This was the first time I didn't feel the need to be pending on something or someone. When I mentioned that my dish had been one of the best I had ever tasted, Alejandro suggested something unexpected. "Would you like to walk a bit on the beach? It's just here, and the sound of the sea is always a good way to end a night like this." I hesitated for a moment but then accepted. Why not? After all, this night was for me. We walked on the damp sand under a clear sky that allowed us to see a few stars. The sea, with its constant rhythm, seemed like a reflection of how I felt, tranquil but with an energy I couldn't explain. Alejandro didn't try to force anything, he walked beside me, listening and sharing thoughts about life. It was a different kind of connection, without pretensions. As the wind played with my hair, I turned to him and thanked him. "You have no idea how much I needed this," I said, and he simply replied, "Sometimes the universe knows when to put people in the right place." In that moment, I understood everything. This night wasn't just about Alejandro or even about Emiliano, it was about me, about recovering something I had lost a long time ago, my self-worth. We parted ways in front of the restaurant with the promise to talk again. As I left, I didn't feel anxiety or fear, just hope. For the first time in years, the future didn't seem uncertain but exciting.